Webheads, start your engines and grab your special sock because this is a very special episode of the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast coming to you on the day of the Indy 500 and Game 3 of the Pacers-Knicks Conference Finals. I'm John, and with me as always is my co-host, the man who won't drink his own piss on the internet, not even for $20, Zach Armour.
Wow, fantastic. That made no sense if this was anyone's first episode.
Well,
thank you, John.
But hopefully it's not anyone's first episode. Hopefully episode 105.
I think it's 106.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, like you said, this won't mean anything to them because they're hearing this 2 weeks from now, but it's Racers and Pacers Day, baby. We got the Indianapolis 500 and the Pacers, who, by the time you hear this
won't come out tomorrow?
No, this won't come out tomorrow. Well, it'll come out next week, actually.
Okay.
By the time people hear this, the Pacers will be squarely in the NBA Finals, which they will surely win.
Surely. We look pretty good. We're looking pretty good.
I know. I have been enjoying these last couple games. I actually turned off game 1 with 5 minutes left and went to bed like an idiot.
You son of a bitch. Oh my gosh.
For the rest of the year, I'm not missing another second of Pacers action. Because that was like the greatest comeback in basketball history.
I mean, it was. Like, numerically, statistically, it was like the best comeback in playoff history, at least.
Yeah, and I know we have a lot of Knicks fans that are listeners. I've been messaging a lot of them.
Really?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Wow. Well, we're going to spend a lot of time today probably talking about this.
I said, thank God Peter Parker is dead to not see what the Knicks are doing to you guys. And thank God Miles Morales is from Brooklyn and probably roots for the Nets.
You heard it here first, folks. Thank God Peter Parker's dead. Okay. Do we want to talk about the Pacers Knicks? It's right before we hopped on. I said 2 weeks seems like such a long amount of time. I mean, like so much has happened.
Yeah. I think we're both itching too.
Yeah.
It is our podcast.
I don't want to lose our Spider-Man fans though.
Oh, I mean, I know it's uncharted waters for us not talking about Spider-Man for a good portion of the podcast. I hope people will bear with us.
That's true. Okay, Zach, I can't believe you turned off this game.
I can't believe it either. I was so and here's the other crazy thing. I did it specifically because I'm like, I have to work tomorrow and it's late. Dude, I woke up the next day with a migraine and called out sick anyways. I should have just stayed up.
Oh my gosh. For all of our Knicks fans who maybe turned the game off thinking that they had already gotten a win, the Pacers made a bunch of threes in a row. Aaron Nesmith.
Yep.
And then Tyrese Halliburton made an awesome shot. And oh my gosh, it was just like the coolest thing ever, Zach. I was watching it out at like a bar with some people, and it was like the most fun atmosphere. I mean, it was pretty terrible for like the first 12 minutes of the fourth quarter, and then, or the first 10 minutes. And then in the last 2 minutes, it was the craziest thing you've ever seen.
Was it whatever bar Pops Halliburton was at?
No, it wasn't.
Did you see that?
No, I didn't.
He's banned from the games, so he's just been at random Indianapolis bars watching the games and like, talking to whoever will listen. He's like, that's my boy.
Oh my gosh, that is so awesome. Well, I want to talk about his choke sign,
Right.
So what do you think?
It's a good callback. Perfect time to use it. Like, if he had done it in a less important game or a less clutch shot or to any other team or in a less important series, I think it would have been very corny. But I ate it up. I mean, dude, retroactively, when I saw it the next day.
No, it's like the best thing ever. Of course, his toe was on the line. Otherwise, it really would have been like the best thing ever. But you're right. Like in Madison Square Garden, after the best comeback of all time. Here's what I've been thinking, though, for like the past 4 days. And it's not important, but it's my podcast, so I'm going to tell everyone my thoughts. It's not as good as Reggie's. I mean, it's just not, because Aaron Nesmith was really the one who went crazy. Zach, do you know when Reggie did the choke sign against the Knicks back in the day?
After 8 points in 9 seconds?
No, it wasn't. This is what everybody gets wrong. Those are two different events. In 8 points in 9 seconds. See, we're going to lose Spider-Man listeners, but we're going to gain Pacers fans here, okay?
Number one Reggie Miller podcast.
This is a number one Reggie Miller podcast.
for Spider-Man fans.
Okay, 8 points in 9 seconds. Afterwards, they won in such a crazy fashion. They stuck a camera in Reggie Miller's face, and that's when he was like, they choked, the Knicks choked, John Starks choked, and that's when that happened. It was in a different game. That was maybe the year before, or maybe it was the year after. I don't remember which year came first. I should have known that. But it's in a different game where the Pacers were down by 12 in the fourth quarter. And Reggie Miller had 14 points going into the fourth quarter. And it was at Madison Square Garden, of course. And with 9 minutes left in the fourth, the Pacers had cut the lead to 8. And that's when Reggie turned towards Spike Lee and did the choke sign and scored 25 points. And they won by 15. It wasn't even close. So that's a totally different thing, that's some stones. He didn't do it after they already won and the Knicks choked. He did it with 10 minutes left in the fourth and the Pacers were losing. And he's like, these guys are about to choke.
Okay, well...
So it's been upsetting me a little bit that I feel like Reggie's not getting his flowers of being the badass talker that he was.
I think people still know Reggie Miller's legacy. I did see someone was like, Reggie's, choke sign wasn't to when they were winning the game either. That wasn't a game-winning shot. And so that I kind of liked that Halliburton then had to go in and back it up in overtime. And of course they did.
That is actually true. You're right. So he did have to back it up. I kind of like that a little more now.
I feel like it was an homage, to Reggie.
Oh, definitely.
But if you want Tyrese to have his own celebration or whatever that the kids start doing, it's the big ass nutsack in Cleveland.
Oh my gosh.
Which I still find hilarious that they're putting on their own team sponsored videos.
Dude,
right?
I can't believe that. I like
Pacers Instagram and be like, look at Tyrese Halliburton hauling around his huge nuts.
Oh, dude, I kind of hate that. I hate that as the teacher in me and the guy that has to coach kids basketball, and all they do is this stupid ass, my kids can't be doing the nutsack dance after they make a shot. But anyway, I'm only going to say Aaron Nesmith also doesn't get enough credit for that amazing game one win. And, Reggie Miller was both of those things combined, right? He was Nesmith and Halliburton rolled into one. So I just love Reggie Miller so much.
I love Reggie too, but I am also...
I'm glad he and Halliburton shared a nice look after that shot. That's my favorite picture.
I am very much enjoying the fact that it feels like we have a new era in indie sports that is going to be very good. With Halliburton with the Pacers, Caitlin Clark with the Fever. Yeah. I'm still an Anthony Richardson believer. I think he's going to turn it around. And we'd be remiss if we didn't say rest in peace, Jim Irsay.
Yep, that's true. Rest in peace, Jim Irsay.
Why don't we just become an Indianapolis sports podcast?
Well, it's pretty much what we are, and I'm not done with it yet.
Okay.
Because the other thing I wanted to ask you, Zach, I was thinking about it, and that was probably the best comeback I have ever seen in my entire life live. As in, thinking the game was completely over and had no chance. To be honest, I had the Pacers plus 5.5 in that game, and they were down 17. And I was like, my bet is screwed. Not only are they not going to win, right? So, I mean, I had just so given up on it, and then to watch them come back. What is the best Colts or Pacers, I had three things that came to mind. This game and then two other things came to mind. So I want to ask you, what is the best live comeback you've ever seen?
Okay. I was not old enough to be staying up for the Colts 2003
The
comeback
Buccaneers
in Tampa Bay.
Yep. So I was asking one of my coworkers, another teacher, about it, and when I said my things, he said, "Oh, what about the Colts Bucks?" And I was like, "Well, I didn't watch that one live. That's an amazing comeback, but I didn't see that one live."
Right. Same thing. And it was it came to mind immediately, and I was like, I have to acknowledge that I just didn't watch that game. So I would say. I think you're probably thinking of the 2006 AFC Championship game as one of them.
Actually, it's not.
Okay. Then I'm going to say...
That's obviously an amazing comeback, but okay. I think it's just not... It's, 15 points at the half doesn't really seem like that. It's amazing, obviously, because the stake and everything, but it's just not as big as
the Tom Brady Patriots.
Yeah. But that's probably my favorite comeback ever, but it's not as big, I don't think. Okay.
Then I'm going to say Andrew Luck going nuclear against the Chiefs.
Yep, that was on there.
Getting the Superman touchdown.
Definitely. That was the one I was thinking of. I was at that game.
Oh, wow. That's
insane.
Awesome. He had another good one that I don't think that was his rookie season, but in his rookie season,
I think it might have been, and it's the one that I'm thinking of also.
They beat Green Bay, and Reggie Wayne.
That was an amazing one, the Reggie Wayne game.
He had 15 catches or something. And
for
got
200
the game winner.
Yards. Yeah. I was thinking that the other two games, apart from the Pacers game that came to mind, were the Andrew Luck Chiefs comeback and the Colts Lions comeback from that same season.
Oh, sure.
Where it
Donnie
was just
Avery
Donnie Avery. And the best one was scrambling to his left across his body, chucks it 50 yards to, I don't know that guy's name, Brazil maybe? But
yeah, I think so.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So those were the ones where I was like, I don't know how they just won that game. I cannot explain how they did it.
Andrew Luck's first season and Andrew Luck's last season were just incredible times to be a Colts fan. Every single game was like that. They were the cardiac Colts.
Yep. He retired too soon.
It is very sad.
Oh, well. Okay. That was a lot of time on the Pacers. Hopefully you don't have to cut any of that out. Now, I know neither of us care about the Indy 500 at all.
No. Which is sacrilegious, I guess, but whatever.
That's probably starting right this second.
I think you're right.
Well, the teacher I work with the most, her brother-in-law is Ed Carpenter. So we're rooting for Ed Carpenter today.
Okay. Nice.
Yep.
I saw some statistic that 1 out of every 1,100 people in the U.S. are at the Indy 500 today.
Yeah.
That's just hard for me to believe. I was downtown yesterday, and it was like a ghost town.
And they're all hammered, and then they're all going to the Pacers game after that.
That's right. I think there's going to be a watch party on the new plaza they built outside of the field house. I'm kind of thinking about maybe going to that. I think that'll be fun, beautiful chaos.
Well, 3 times in history, the race and a Pacers home game have been on the same day, and the Pacers have lost all 3. And I remember this last time it happened. It was against the Heat. And I remember thinking they lose because they do this dumb stuff with the checkered flags in the crowd. And that's just not Pacers. The Pacers are blue and yellow, And so it'll be interesting to see if they give out black and white shirts to checkered flag the crowd, or if they actually go blue and yellow, because I think that makes a difference.
What if it's blue and yellow checkers?
That'd be awesome. That would be the best thing they could do, probably.
Okay. Yeah, let's hope they do that.
Let's hope they do that. Okay, let's hope they've done that by the time people listen to this.
That's right. Real quick, what do you think about the Pacers fan in New York that was getting the trash thrown on him, that they're flying out to this game?
I didn't see it.
You didn't see that?
No.
Oh yeah, there's like one guy who was outside the garden in the previous series. I don't know who they played. And everyone's in Knicks jerseys and he's in a Halliburton jersey. And people are like mobbing him and throwing trash on him. And it went viral. And if they found the guy, he's a firefighter. They brought him on Pat McAfee's show. Halliburton came in and said, "We're flying you out to Indy for game 3. You're going to be at the game. The whole team's excited to meet you." Very nice gesture. But I'm thinking, this guy lives in New York. You guys are playing the first 2 games in New York. How hard would it be to get him a ticket
Get him to one of those games.
And have at least one Pacers fan in the crowd?
Well, he'd get trash thrown at him again.
Then they'd give him more tickets.
Yeah.
Best outcome for everyone.
Well, hopefully they can win. It's not over yet.
I am gonna.
I remain pessimistic till the end.
I'm gonna dance on their graves. The Knicks are little bitches. Brunson is a nobody. Pacers in 4. See you in the finals. Lock it in.
Lock it in, baby. Okay, you got anything else?
I do not.
Let's throw it over to our sponsor,
the Indiana Pacers.
Every business says they're better, but the ones that earn and display the BBB seal back it up. It instantly identifies businesses that are committed to operating with integrity, honoring promises, and telling the truth. Makes you wonder why every business doesn't have it. So look for it, because it's looking out for you. That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
And we're back.
What are we doing today, Zach? Spider-Man's dead, thank God, as we heard earlier.
Thank God he doesn't have to watch these sorry-ass Knicks.
Dude, he would not be a Knicks fan. He would probably be a Pacers fan. Growing up during the Reggie Miller Pacers era, you can't tell me talking Spider-Man wouldn't have sided with Reggie Miller.
That is true. He does have some similarities.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the little guy.
So thank God Peter Parker's watching up in heaven on these Pacers.
Yes. Thank you, Peter Parker. Okay, so we're getting into Ultimate Fallout 3 and Ultimate Fallout 4. Same deal as last week. These are kind of jam comics with Hickman, Spencer, and I think Bendis is in your issue, John, but he's not in mine.
Well, I'm getting a little tired of these jam comics. Is that just me?
We'll get into it.
Okay.
I think they have obvious strengths and I think they have obvious drawbacks that are going to present themselves.
Okay.
Okay. So for this first third of my issue, it's covering Tony Stark, written by Jonathan Hickman, penciled by Steve Kurth, inked by Jay Leston, and colored by Antonio Fabella. And we're still in Peter's funeral at the church, and we're looking at Tony Stark mourning, and he's surrounded by a bunch of people. The church is packed. And then we see that 4 days ago, he was in that same church for his brother Gregory's funeral. Now, Gregory was the villain behind that war that was going on between the Ultimates and the Avengers. He was the one who set that in motion and pitted the heroes against each other.
Okay, not that this matters, and I wouldn't have even said anything, but I don't think it's the same church. Because it's different.
You're right, it's a different church. It's a much smaller church.
Not that matters at all.
Okay.
Okay, so sorry, what were you saying about Gregory? Gregory started some war? I was like, who is this man?
He doesn't matter. He was behind the Ultimates versus Avengers thing that was going on. The reason the heroes were fighting on the bridge and couldn't respond to Spider-Man's house.
That was Tony Stark's brother that was responsible for it?
Tony Stark's brother that does not exist in any other media or Marvel universe and only showed up for this story to do this.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah. So
I didn't think I really liked that he had a brother when I read this. I was like, Gregory Stark. That's not a real person.
No, that sounds more like a Game of Thrones character. Tony Stark is the most only child character you've ever met.
Definitely.
But the point of all of this is just to show the comparison of everyone was at Spider-Man's funeral, and Gregory's is almost empty because he was an unloved bad guy that no one likes. And we get a lot about Gregory here that, again, I'm not going to go into because it doesn't super matter. The pastor is trying to say some nice words about him, but it's hard because no one likes this dude. And a guy in a white suit named Jonathan Blackhaven approaches Tony at Gregory's funeral and starts talking to him and introducing himself. And this might be the fastest little story arc we've ever gone through in this podcast because it's not relevant to Spider-Man. And I will just say this guy, Jonathan Blackhaven, invites Tony to a mansion in Zurich, Switzerland, and introduces him to this secret society that they have. It's called the Kratos Club. And the Kratos Club doesn't matter. It will sort of kind of come up in Jonathan Hickman's Ultimates, but this is just what it's setting up. They just have a secret society of rich people that they want Tony Stark to join.
Okay, so here's some things about the last 7 pages that I want to talk about. We're just going to brush on them really quickly because none are important, like you said. First things first, Gregory Stark's tombstone. It's so dumb, and it kind of looks like... Okay, this is not what's dumb about it. What's dumb about it is that there's like teeny baby angels like flying out of the marble. But it also, the part that's not that, looks exactly like the MLK like memorial. Have you ever seen that? I mean, they're like the same exact thing. But this has like stupid baby angels coming out of it. So any thoughts on that?
Maybe that's just the statue you get on your grave when you're killed by the government.
And then you can just modify it as you please.
Oh, yeah, to add the cherubim?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, next, Tony Stark and this other billionaire guy, as he's like walking him through his Zurich place, he's like, as we all know, Mr. Stark, being a billionaire is extremely hard, and people think we didn't earn our money, but we know we did. And Tony's like, that's true, we did earn our money.
This guy's making a lot of sense.
It's just like pretty funny. It's like, this probably is how like billionaires talk. They're like, oh, everyone thinks we didn't earn our money, but we did, right?
We're just like everyone else, right? We have problems too. The other day I wanted to take my new super yacht out and it was raining.
And then let's see, what's our last thing? Oh, do you know who any of these people are? I know Vanessa Allegra de Fontaine, whatever, because she's in the Marvel movies. But I've never heard of any of these other people. Damon Dunn, Masloff, and Dieter Buchwald. Yeah. Anyway.
No, these are what they say in the football recruiting world are just Jags. These are,
okay.
This is just another guy.
Yep. Okay, sounds good. I don't think that I had anything else to say about this. Like you said, it seemed pretty inconsequential and out of nowhere. I mean, I didn't even know he had a brother until 2 seconds ago.
Yeah. I think Hickman is taking his opportunity in these issues, not necessarily to memorialize Ultimate Spider-Man, but to like set up things he wants to do in his works. Yeah,
that's what it seems like. Because
and I think Spencer, to a certain extent, is doing the same thing. I mean, they all are to a certain extent doing that. Spencer is trying harder, I think, to work in Spider-Man. Hickman is just kind of going off on his own. Well, Bendis is almost always about memorializing Spider-Man.
Well, when I opened this comic and I was like, the very first scene, right, we're sitting at Peter's funeral again. I was kind of like, why are we still here? We're now 3 issues in, and we're still at like his funeral. So I don't know, I'm kind of ready to move on from this.
Well, too bad. We're back at Peter's funeral.
Yeah, I know.
This is written by Nick Spencer and art by Eric Wayne. We're back at Peter's funeral, and we're looking at Kitty. She's sitting next to Aunt May. She looks over at J. Jonah Jameson, and he's mourning. She looks back at Nick Fury and Captain America, and they're mourning. And she's kind of scowling at them. And she gets up and runs down the aisle and says, "Screw this." And she thinks, "Kitty Pryde, my mother will say, 'What happened to your manners?' But we all have our limits, right?" She phases through the front door of the church because she can't just open it. She always phases. And she goes outside, and there's people getting interviewed on the street about what they think of Spider-Man. And they're saying he was such a hero, and they couldn't believe he was dead. And Kitty runs up to them and says, "Get out of here." And she breaks the reporter's camera because she phases through it. And she says, "I said get out of here. Go, you people make me sick." And she's running off the reporter and the people getting interviewed. I'm going to read a long monologue now because this is mostly a long monologue issue. She thinks they're disgusting. All of them. My friend, somebody I loved more than words can describe, is dead in there. He's never coming back. And what are they doing? Putting on a show. She starts walking to Central Park. All Peter ever wanted to do was the right thing. And all they ever did was try to hurt him. The whole time. They shot at him and called him names on the paper and tried to arrest him. Now they want to stand there and tell everyone how great they thought he was, how he was a hero. It's sick. Just a bunch of people trying to make themselves look good in front of a camera. He was a kid I didn't know, because you never bothered to ask. You were too busy hitting the gym or shopping or watching TV, trying to sell more newspapers or running your stupid little secret missions. Bottom line, you never cared about him. And if you really did, well, if you did, then he wouldn't be dead. And the worst part of this is they're acting like this changes everything, like he's going to inspire them. This doesn't change anything. Peter would tell them to stop fighting each other. Peter would tell them to stop hating mutants, to stop hating someone just because they're different from you. But no, they don't want to stop any of that, do they? Might hit their bottom line, might cost them some votes. They just want a martyr to trot out when it's convenient for them. Nobody wants a living hero. They might say or do something that people don't like, or maybe just remind them of all the things they're not. Dead ones are way easier to deal with. You get to look like a good person by talking about how sad you are. Maybe you get to point a finger at someone else and say they're to blame for it. So me, I'm done trying to be a hero. I know Peter would probably tell me how I shouldn't give up, how I should always keep trying no matter what. But I can't give them what they really want. I don't want to die. I want a nice, normal life. I want to go to college and be with my mom and hang out with all my friends. And she's in the park, and as she says all my friends, she realizes she walked past Bobby Drake, who's crying on a bench. John, I'm going to stop here because that was like 4 pages. Do you have anything to say about this so far?
Not really. I just didn't really care about it.
Yeah, I don't know what the issue is because Kitty is my favorite character. And I think about it, and this kind of is like Kitty, right? She would call out people's hypocrisy. She would be practicing some big speech in her head. She would get mad at the fact that Peter's dead. Yeah. It's like, it's believably her, and it's important that we're hearing this in the fallout of his death because she's one of the characters you need to get a reaction from. But I just don't love it. And I don't know why. I don't know what it's missing. It's hard to pin down, but I feel like this is simultaneously what needs to be said and how she would say it, but something's just missing.
Yeah.
Maybe I don't like how pessimistic she is. I don't know.
I don't know. I guess I think it's just like a lot. Like it's a lot of text, and she's just like not saying anything like too whatever that we haven't heard a million times before.
Right, it's not new information.
Yeah. And, she's not particularly speaking with like a ton of passion or anything like that. Like, I don't know. It's just a lot.
That is true. I'm realizing maybe it would have been better if she had said something like, I still loved him. He broke up with me, but I still love him or something. Because you're right. It is kind of impassionate. It's more things that she would already be thinking.
Yeah.
It's not heightened because of his funeral at all.
Yeah. I don't know. It didn't do much for me.
Anyways, because this is, a different artist that we've never seen draw Bobby, I literally saw Bobby and I was like, who's this sad dope? He kind of
looks
looks
this
like
baby on the bench.
He looks ridiculous. And then of course, it is Bobby, and that is funny.
That's definitely another thing that like made me not care that much about this Kitty thing is I just like don't like the artwork in it. And I know that someone tried really hard on it and they did a great job, but it just isn't, it's just not doing it for me. It's not enhancing the story for me.
Yeah. It is funny that Bobby has two looks, overgrown baby or do-rag. I think I would have recognized him better here if he was in a do-rag.
Yeah.
Okay, Kitty notices him and she's like, Bobby? And he's sniffing because he was crying and he says, hey, Kitty. She's like, how you feeling? And he goes, the worst. And she's like, couldn't take it in there either, huh? And he goes, I don't even know where I'm going to live. I can't go back to Aunt May's house. She's already been through enough, And he says, the government's still looking for us. If they found out she was hiding me, they could arrest her, right? And Kitty goes, yeah. And Bobby's like, screw that. I don't know what to do. And Kitty tries to comfort him, and he starts crying again. And he's kind of having a crisis of confidence in being a superhero. He's like, I used to think all of this was awesome, and I knew it was dangerous and everything, but I wasn't worried. And I met Peter and Johnny, and it felt like we had a family. And he's like, this just sucks. We're just going to keep running until they find somewhere to lock us up or they kill us. And he said, kids like us, we don't get happy endings. And Kitty is watching him cry, and she goes, maybe not. Listen, Bobby, I know this place. A safe place where they can't find mutants, no matter how hard they look. I was heading there after the funeral. And, well, you can come with me if you want. But here's the deal. No more superhero stuff. No more saving the world. No more putting on costumes and beating up bad guys. No more using our powers in public. None of it. No exceptions. We keep quiet. We keep our heads down. We keep breathing. You can't do that. You can't go with me. You in? And he thinks about it good and long, and he says, can Johnny come? And we zoom out, and we see, standing off in the distance, Johnny Storm, still with his dyed black hair, is just sadly kicking a tin can. So that seems to be setting up Nick Spencer's Ultimate X-Men run, and explaining why Iceman and Human Torch are no longer living with Aunt May.
Ah, okay. So the Ultimate X-Men run, are they like back in that one?
I think so. I have not read it. I kind of want to. I have heard interesting things about it, and I do like Nick Spencer as a writer. I never cared about Ultimate X-Men before Ultimatum. This is maybe the Ultimate X-Men series I should check out. And now we're into our last third of my issue. This is once again written by Jonathan Hickman. This time it's penciled by Carlo Palagoyan, inked by Jason Paz, and colored by Rachel Rosenberg. It says 2 weeks ago. And we see a woman say, imagine an ocean at peace. This is an uncommon state of man. Now imagine a raging sea, a furious storm drowning out the sturdiest of vessels. This is how things are. That makes you angry. Makes you normal, just like everyone else. And we're like, oh, who's she talking to? What's this about? And the person she's talking to says, I don't think, hey man, you're just an ordinary guy is a solid foundation on which to build an effective argument, Karen. And she says, I'm just pointing out that you can't eliminate the emotion. Control is going to have to come from somewhere else. So Bruce, let's start at the beginning. Do you remember the first time you really lost control of your temper and became something else? And the other person says yes. And we realize that he is Bruce Banner. And he gets a flashback to the first time he became the Hulk and he fought Peter Parker all the way back in, I want to say, Ultimate Team Up issue 2.
But that wasn't the first time he became the Hulk. He had been the Hulk before.
I think in universe they're saying that was his first hulking out.
Yeah, but it wasn't because he hulked out and like killed Peter's parents.
Yeah, when Peter was a baby.
Yeah.
In that terrible issue that made no sense.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess
Bruce Banner was definitely already the Hulk before Peter had even come into the story, I think.
Because of that retcon story.
No, but even before that, the first... when we first met Bruce Banner, he had been the Hulk in the past. Like, they mentioned that, like, he had destroyed stuff or something.
That was in the Ultimates, and I think they were referencing Ultimate Team Up.
Okay. We'd have to read it. I'd have to go back and read it.
Originally, Ultimate Team Up was supposed to be, like, the first time he rampaged. And then they kind of messed that up with the flashback story with his parents.
Okay. I'd have to go back and read Ultimate Team Up.
So this is some kind of psychic therapy session with Bruce Banner to try and get him to not be the Hulk or control him.
Who's Karen?
I was just about to say, a lot is left up to inference by the readers or knowing what's going on. So on the cover page of this, it says Karen Grant and the Hulk. Karen Grant is an alias that Jean Grey is using because the X-Men have disbanded and it's illegal to be a mutant. So she dyed her hair and she's going by Karen Grant. And apparently she is working for S.H.I.E.L.D. to try and rehabilitate Bruce Banner.
Okay.
And we see he's hooked up to some kind of IV, probably a sedative, while they're here talking. And she asks him if he knows what triggered the episode. And he's like, I've killed several therapists that they've already tried to do this to me. And we can see her psychic projection, her little energy flares coming from her head. So we know she's not just thinking and talking. She's like telepathically talking to him and possibly controlling him. And she goes, oh, that's not what I'm doing, Bruce. In fact, that has very little to do with you at all. And he's like, what? What's going on? And he seems to be kind of in a sedated state. And she repeats, an ocean at peace, an ocean raging. Just a baseline I stroke for your sedated lobes. This is about my control, Bruce. And she turns him into the Hulk where he sits in his chair. And then she says, you can come in now. We see Nick Fury enter. And he's like, are you sure this is safe? She says, each time we try this, it takes twice as long as the time before. The phrase highly resistant comes to mind. And Nick Fury's like, well, that could be a problem. And he points a gun at the Hulk's head. He's like, I need people I can use, pieces I can put in play. I've offered you and your friends protection with the understanding it comes with a price. So can you control Bruce Banner or can't you? And she says, I can. And to her credit, he is sitting there in the chair, very calm, while hulked out. And he says, all right then, keep a bag packed. You'll be hearing from me soon. And Jean kisses him on the forehead, kisses the Hulk and says, good night, Bruce. I'm sorry for all this. Sweet dreams. And he closes his eyes and goes to sleep. And in his dreams, he's dreaming about hulking out and destroying things. And then it says, next issue, who will wear the mask? With Spider-Man's hands holding a spider mask.
I didn't really understand what was happening in this.
Yep, I know. And I needed to give the that backstory about who Karen Grant is, and that it's because the mutants are hunted. Basically, she has negotiated for amnesty with S.H.I.E.L.D. if she helps them, and it's all just Hickman setting up things that he's doing in his Ultimates run.
Yeah. Okay. Well, good. Now I understand it more. Thanks to you're reading through it. So that's good. What'd you think? What's our rating system?
I'm going to give this one a 5 out of 10 milligrams of whatever they're giving the Hulk.
Okay.
Because I am not feeling it. I didn't love it as much as the other issues of Ultimate Fallout. Some of these are good, some of these are bad. I did appreciate the Kitty stuff, but like I said, it didn't strike an emotional nerve with me, which should be relatively easy when you're talking about Kitty Pryde reminiscing over Peter's death.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be even less generous, and I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10 milligrams. I just didn't really like any of it, and it wasn't like interesting to me. You know, the Gregory Stark stuff, and then the Kitty stuff, and then the stuff with Jean Grey and the Hulk. Like, it just went like 0 for 3 on storylines I actually was like kind of caring about. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see if we get any better stuff in your issue.
Let's see. Ultimate Fallout number 4 out of 6. And this also has 3 different sections. There's a Spider-Man section that's going to be written by Brian Michael Bendis, art by Sarah Pacelli, and colored by Justin Ponzer. There's a Reed Richards section written by Jonathan Hickman, art by Salvador Larroca, and colored by Frank D'Armata. And then a Valerie Cooper section that's written by Nick Spencer and art by Clayton Crane. So, we are back with Reed Richards in the Negative Zone. This is right after their big fight, and he's floating away just in space. And he's thinking to himself, "Oh, how did I get here? You know, life and death and blah, blah, blah." And he's like, "Oh, I'm about to die." And then he thinks about his fight with all of the heroes. And, it looks like a pretty cool fight happened. Reed's really stretched out.
We did cover it, you know.
I know. And I think we talked about that, how we were like, wow, Reed Richards actually looks like a villain here, you know.
Yeah.
He's using his stretchy powers to look scary, not goofy. And he's like, no, he gets a little burst of will to live. So he spots in his little ship that he was building in the Negative Zone, he spots something from a distance that could help him get back home. And he goes over there and he starts building it. And he's like, okay, if I can get enough power, I can get myself back home. And of course, since he's Reed Richards, he ends up doing a bunch of computer stuff. And he's like, if I can get home, I can save everyone. I'm going to do it. I'm going to show everyone, no, this isn't about pride. This is because I have to save them. I'm going to fix what's wrong. And then in the blink of an eye, he goes from sitting in his little ship in the Negative Zone to in a deserted forest on Earth, presumably. And he says, I'm going to solve everything. What's his deal? Why does he think everything's so wrong with the world? Oh, yeah, he talked about this on the roof with Sue before, right? He's like, it's broken, Sue. And I'm the only one that can fix it.
They need a smart guy who rules them. Yeah. And I'm the smartest guy. This is kind of interesting. I think we see what he's doing. So he's getting all of his computers back online after the heroes had smashed them to bits. And he doesn't have a power source. And it seems like he's just plugging electrodes into the brains of the dead. What do we call these guys? Like Gregor the...
Oh. Huh. Yeah.
He's like siphoning the electricity from their brains or something to power his machine.
Interesting. Because he said the computer doesn't have enough brains, and then it like shows him, and I was thinking he was like, oh, but I do. I'm Reed Richards. But you're right. Then the other stuff, it is like plugged in to them.
This is kind of cool. It's a Hickman thing to always be blending like technology and like biology, right? So these guys are dead, and he's literally still plugging their brains into his computer to make it run.
Well, I think that these first couple pages give us a more sympathetic Reed Richards. You know, he's just really trying to help the best way he knows how to. And, you know, he just wants to save everyone. And they even show him a couple times, like with his face turned so he looks handsome. You know, after he goes back to the earth, he's like, I'm going to solve everything. And it doesn't show his evil face. It shows his good face. So, you know, maybe they're giving him a little bit of sympathy here.
Yep. And I will give you a little bit more backstory on that line. I'm going to solve everything. This is coming simultaneously as Jonathan Hickman is writing the Fantastic Four in the main universe. And in that run, he introduced something called the Future Foundation. So that's like FF could stand for Fantastic Four, or it could stand for Future Foundation. And basically, Reed comes up with that same idea in the main universe. He is smart enough. He is going to fix every problem. He is going to start a foundation where he just solves every problem with humanity. And so that's like the good version of it. And then simultaneously across the multiverse, the Maker is having the same idea. And how is his version of events going to play out differently than the good Reed's version?
I don't know. Interesting. That is interesting. So is that the Reed that he like kidnaps eventually? Or is that a different one?
I guess we'll have to see.
Okay, Zach. So
if you have any questions about the Maker, I promise we will cover it in the duration of this podcast. Not this episode, but eventually we will get there. And that's part of the reason why I'm having us read this Jonathan Hickman stuff in these issues, where it's like, that goes into Ultimate stuff, because we're going to read some Jonathan Hickman Ultimates, because it has to do with the Maker.
So Reed is standing alone in that forest, and then you turn the page, and now you can tell some time has passed because it says now in the box up top. So I guess however much time has passed between that last fight and now is however long he's been doing his thing. But you can tell he's now in like a futuristic looking city. He's got, you know, V1 of his Maker helmet on, and it's still small in the back. It's not humongous in the back like I know it becomes at some point. And he's talking to someone, and he says, we're going to have a new focus for my ongoing and never-ending education. The experiment will start with survival and end on a millennial tomorrow. I don't get it. There's so much of these two issues that I'm like, I don't understand what they're saying.
I know you don't yet. I know, but this actually is pretty awesome, and you will eventually get what he's talking about.
It will end on a millennial tomorrow. My rules are simple. In the dome, it's evolve or become extinct. Welcome, children. And we can see he's welcome to tomorrow, and he's talking to all these people that I'm guessing are called as children of tomorrow because I don't know, of something, right? Isn't that what they're all called?
Yeah, some bro's been watching BuzzFeed. You've been getting spoilers from somewhere.
Yes, over the last like 3 years, occasionally I see stuff. And he says, I'm sorry, most of you are not going to make it. Oh, and now he's got his f***ed up looking face again. So, I guess he didn't make it back to his home Earth, right? He must have gone to a different, like, Earth.
He made it somewhere.
He made it somewhere, but isn't that, couldn't we, I mean, we would think that's probably not on his main Earth.
We will see. I promise that will be answered to you.
Oh my gosh. Remember when we used to talk about these comics? It wasn't Zach just telling me, we'll talk about it later.
Okay, you're right. Whatever. He's not on Earth right now, per se.
Okay. They're in a dome. He's in a big dome.
He is in a dome.
So now we go to Val Cooper's section, and I don't know who Val Cooper is, and I don't like the way it's drawn. I've gotten so negative, haven't I?
So Val Cooper is generally like a government agent or liaison or...
Why couldn't they just make it Val Devontaine? If we're going to have some Val that was just introduced who's a government person, just make it one Val.
That's so funny you say that, because when the MCU started doing that Valerie or Val or whoever, I thought it was Val Cooper. I was like, oh, Val Cooper's not blonde? They've got Julia Dreyfus playing her? Yeah, Val Cooper essentially is what Carol Danvers has been in the Ultimate Universe. She's always like the government person or a shield person or something. She's a suit. And sometimes she kind of is like with the good guys, and sometimes she's like an anti-hero.
Yeah.
And she's usually in the X-Men corner of things. She's kind of fun, except for here. She's kind of boring here.
Yeah. Well, a lot of these issues are kind of boring because we don't know the characters, or like we're just like thrown into a 6-page like story arc for people that we don't know, and so a lot of it is kind of boring.
These are less of stories that stand alone on their own, and more of like if you made a clip show of the post-credit scenes from the MCU.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
These are like post-credit scenes.
Yes. And okay, so Val Cooper is talking to this woman, and I'm going to paraphrase their big long conversation, because I kind of like, this is sort of a pet peeve of mine when, I don't know, there's like this conversation like this where it just takes them so long to say like the information you actually like want them to say. Like, they talk about this pistachio ice cream she's eating like 3 times, and they like draw it in like multiple times, and they're just like trying to be so like secretive or high concept. I don't know. Can you help me out here, Zach? Put my thoughts into the mic.
Everyone wants to be Tarantino.
Yes, kind of.
We got to talk about the pistachio ice cream instead of whatever we're actually here to talk about.
But basically what the key thing that they're actually talking about that we care about is the woman in the red dress, not Val Cooper, found some information, or some guy is like about to die, so he wants to finally like tell the world his story, and it turns out he was like a mutant that was experimented on, and he can give people his memories, kind of like the Giver. So he can like project his memories into other people, and it's this big deal because he was like one of the first mutants ever experimented on. But then they find out, I don't know, he's actually like the first mutant ever, and the government like created mutants, and that's what like his memories and all these like files will end up showing, is that the government created mutants, and that is like about to come out. So Val Cooper like hops on a plane to go to the hospital and talk to him or something.
Yep. It ends with her saying the entire world's about to find out the United States government created mutants.
Yeah.
So this is leading into Nick Spencer's X-Men run.
Yeah.
Genuinely has nothing to do with Spider-Man.
And it's kind of lame. The government created mutants. I know we've like known, that's like come up very slightly before in our run, I think.
They told Magneto that before they lasered his head off. Excuse me, not laser. Optic blast.
Oh, that's right. And then all of a sudden he like felt bad about everything he did.
Yeah, he had like a mental
It's like, yeah.
breakdown. He's like, Charles will forgive me. And they're like, you already killed Charles, you old...
How did they like show him that? Because didn't they like show him Nick Fury's memories or something? Or
Yeah, I think Jean Grey did some telepathy or something.
Okay. Yeah, that was so dumb. Okay. So now we're back in New York City and some dude's getting thrown through a bar window.
And who's doing this?
This is Brian Michael Bendis is doing this.
Yes, and Sarah Pacelli.
Sarah Pacelli. Yep. And Kangaroo, who I know we've seen before, the Australian version of Craven is what it reminds me of. He's the one who throws him through the window. And he's like, come on, mate, you didn't pay me my money. And he's kicking him around. And then someone from above says, wow, that ain't nice at all. And the page turns, and it's Spider-Man who's standing above him on the car and says, I think an apology of some sort is due to all of us, really. We'll wait. And Kangaroo looks at him and says, Spider-Man, I thought you was dead. And the guy he was beating up says, yeah, man, that's in terrible taste. He does have like the same exact outfit, it looks like.
No, it's actually a worse outfit.
It's pretty similar, right?
It is.
I mean, it's a very similar look is what I mean.
Yeah, he's got the big eyes. You know, you'd be forgiven if for a second you're like, wow, this is great. Peter is still alive.
Yeah.
I do think it's funny. The guy with the swollen shut eye with blood dripping down his nose says, yeah, man, it's in pretty terrible taste.
Yeah. And so Spider-Man starts beating up Kangaroo to the best of his abilities. But he realizes pretty quickly that Kangaroo is faster and stronger than maybe he was expecting. And, you know, we can also see why he's punching a little bit. He's getting some spidey sense, like around his head. So he has some sort of actual spider powers, it would seem. But it also seems like he doesn't know what those really mean, because as soon as his spidey sense goes off, Kangaroo grabs him around the throat and says, how are you not dead? I told yous the last time we met. I told yous I'd kill you if I ever saw you again. No one messes with the Kangaroo. And he spins him around and chucks him across the street into a wall. And he chucks him into like a pizza joint. And one of the people's table who he lands on says, that's in terrible taste. And the other one says, I thought you died. And our new Spider-Man says, I'm going to smell like pizza for a week, before walking out of the pizza parlor saying, does everyone in the city have powers? Does he actually call himself the Kangaroo? Why would someone call himself and he sees the Kangaroo flying through the air, ready to double kick him like a kangaroo would. So new Spider-Man's getting beat up pretty good here. And Kangaroo's getting some more good licks in. And Spider-Man's on the ground. He's pretty much toast before he gets his spider sense. And he says, the buzzing again. And he manages to kind of jump out of the way and kick Kangaroo right as he's about to get a car thrown on his head. So he knocks Kangaroo out. You know, there's a crowd of onlookers who just watched all of this. And one of them says, that outfit is in bad taste, you know. And Spider-Man crawls up a wall to escape. So he's also got wall crawling powers. So he's got a couple spider powers here. And he gets to the roof and he lifts up his mask, and it's Miles Morales. And he says maybe the costume is in bad taste.
Now, we don't know it's Miles Morales.
Well, we know it's Miles Morales.
Well, we do. But there's nothing in the comic that explains that. We just know there's a new Superman. What the am I talking about? We just know there's a new Spider-Man.
And I'm sure everyone went crazy because he's black.
Oh my God. I was wondering if I should talk about this in this episode or next time we see Miles or what, but have you seen the Glenn Beck reaction to Miles Morales getting announced?
No, I haven't.
There is the funniest clip from 2011 of Glenn Beck, former Fox News host, going crazy about they made a new Spider-Man since I was a boy. Spider-Man's always been Peter Parker. Now they say Peter Parker's dead. They make a new Spider-Man, and he's young, he's black, he's gay.
Is he gay
like
too?
Barack Obama. He's not, but Glenn Beck thought he was. He says he looks like Barack Obama. He was convinced that Bendis made this change so that people would like worship Barack Obama.
Wow. What a time to be alive.
And I've seen videos of Bendis getting asked about it. They're like, Glenn Beck kind of lost his mind over this. How do you feel? And he's like, thank you for selling more issues for me, Glenn Beck.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone went nuts.
Totally normal reactions.
Yep.
It will be fun. In some of the first issues with Miles, where we're given like letters columns, because sometimes they include them and sometimes they don't. I do think it'll be interesting to read some of those on air to see live. Now, it's not a true, finger on the pulse, because those are the ones that Marvel chooses to print.
Yeah. They're not gonna put any of the most racist things they've ever heard in their life up in their comics.
Right, but I do still think we'll read some of those.
Definitely. So what do we think of this issue?
I thought it was far and away better than my issue from today. You got two really good segments. I think the Val Cooper one is kind of a snooze fest, but that's okay. Maker, I think we can call this the first appearance of the Maker, and I think we can call this the first appearance of Miles Morales. And so we are eating good overall on this podcast. I'm going to say this issue was like an 8 out of 10. I don't know what you want to make that out of.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For the fact that these are post-credit scenes. We're not going to get a real story introduced.
I'll say, okay, let's do, in honor of the kangaroos, we'll say out of 10 shrimp on the Barbies.
Okay.
So, gosh, I'm definitely not going to go as high as an 8 out of 10. Because
maybe I should.
No.
Shouldn't have. Well, here's the thing.
You can.
It's out of hype. It's out of excitement. Okay, I'm not saying this is like get your special sock out, nerd. This is the best story you've ever read.
Well,
I liked it.
I think the second time I read it through, I understood it more. The Maker stuff was good, but it was still not like great. And then the Val Cooper stuff, like I really had to like read through a second time because it's just so much text and a lot of it's just like nothing. So, but then the second time I read it, I actually was able to like decipher what they were talking about and like get the story of the old man who was experimented on and blah, blah. So it did become a little more interesting to me. And then the Spider-Man kangaroo stuff was fine. But it was fine in the way that like we've seen a million issues of Spider-Man like having a fight with a bad guy, right? It wasn't anything like too crazy. I'm going to give it, I feel like this is higher than what I had initially set, but I'll give it a 7 out of 10 shrimp on the Barbies. When I first read it, I was like, oh, it's like a 5, It's significantly better than the previous one, but it still isn't really doing anything for me. But I'll give it a 7.
I'll say this. I am glad for the repetition of that's in terrible taste, because once you do it twice, you have to do it a third time.
Yeah, that was funny. That was definitely and then he did it a fourth time because Miles says it at the very end.
Oh yeah. That's a little bit different. Maybe that's like the closure of it. He's like, yeah. I do need a different costume, don't I?
Yeah, I am excited for Miles Morales. I'm probably ready for Spider-Man Fallout to be over.
Okay. Well, we've got one more week of it.
Yeah.
Some of it you may like, some of it you will not.
I'm sure I will. You know, you also just give me like 8 pages of Reed Richards like becoming the maker, and then you switch me over to like pistachio ice cream with 2 people I don't know who they are and don't know what they're talking about. It's like kind of a letdown of a segue.
That was a hard transition, and it doesn't help that the art style is completely different.
Yeah.
So I said there was pros and cons to this kind of storytelling earlier. The pro is we get to cover a lot of different characters. We get to see absolutely everyone's reaction to Peter dying.
The con is we don't care about a lot of them.
The con is some of it is less relevant if we are just Spider-Man readers.
Yeah. So Ultimate Fallout 5 and 6 next week.
Yes, sir.
Does Aunt May stay around, or do we stop hearing about her like pretty soon after we're done with Ultimate Fallout? I feel like it's gonna really upset her that Bobby and Johnny are moving out.
Yeah, we will see what happens with Aunt May and Gwen. I'll say this: as long as Bendis is around, those characters aren't ever fully gone, right? They will pop in and give Miles advice and stuff like that.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, good. I'm looking forward to that.
All right. Are we done with Spider-Man?
I think so. I think we're done with Spider-Man.
Wow. Another great one in the books. By us, not the, creators that get paid to actually make I'm saying we did a hell of an episode.
I agree. So what else do we have for this week? Let's see.
Pacers is really it for me, dude. I'm like,
you didn't watch our Black Mirror episodes that you were supposed to watch?
I have not, dude. I have not been in the right headspace to watch Black Mirror.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's like kind of a funny thing to say. Like, I haven't been in the right headspace to watch Black Mirror. Like, I totally know what you're talking about, where like I just like don't have it in me to watch Black Mirror right now and just get up mentally.
I know this is a dark world. I know that technology dehumanizes us.
Technology is bad. I get it.
It separates us from other people and meaningful relationships. I'm trying to get away from that. Like last night I got high and watched My Neighbor Totoro, which is like the warmest, friendliest thing you can watch. That's the opposite of Black Mirror.
My Neighbor Totoro? What's that?
It's a Studio Ghibli movie. It is...
I swear, sometimes you say things that aren't even real words.
Oh my God, you're such a normie, John. I'm sorry. It's a very wholesome anime from like the 80s.
Very cool.
Yeah. I promise people know what it is.
I believe it. Well, there's a new Doctor Who episode. I think they're like coming to a close here. 2 weeks from now, I'll have to give you the run through on how this season was. There's been some ups and some downs,
Yeah, and then it's gone for however many years.
I think so, but I did maybe just see something that I saw, like maybe it is getting renewed for a season 3, but I don't know. I have no idea. Maybe you know what, Zach? I'm actually not going to look it up because I'll be surprised if maybe we'll get like a special regeneration that I'm not expecting. And I will say that last Thunderbolts movie was really good. And I think part of the reason why was because I had no idea what it was about going into it. So maybe there's something to be said about not spoiling everything before you consume it.
I think that's good. I think that's right. Yeah. Expectations are kind of killing us. That's why I haven't seen much about Superman or Fantastic Four.
I'm trying intentionally to stay away as much as I can. Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
It was a sad week for me for television. My show, The Wheel of Time, which I have told you about and recommended on here before. Amazon canceled it. They pulled the plug. Really big shame because it had really picked up in this most recent season. The quality had jumped up, and I was already enjoying it before that.
Why'd they cancel it?
Because they around the same time, they actually
Anything to save a buck, man.
they started it and the Lord of the Rings of Power show simultaneously. They're two big budget fantasy shows that they wanted to be their version of Game of Thrones. So of course there's a competition between those two.
Yeah.
And they think, well, we'll just cut Wheel of Time and save money, and we'll make money off of Lord of the Rings instead, which is actually a more expensive show to produce.
Yeah, it's like I remember it costing like $1 billion last year.
Stupid. It was just stupid.
Well, that's baloney. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, some people are like holding out hope that someone buys it, but I'm like,
Maybe they will.
there's like 3 companies that could, like, you're betting on what? Disney, HBO, and I don't even think Hulu could do it.
Netflix. Yeah. Maybe you could start a GoFundMe on this podcast.
Oh yeah,
We
get
could
us
buy it.
10 more minutes of content.
Zach, I just had a great idea.
Yeah.
You already know what I'm going to say.
What's that?
We drink our own piss on the internet to make money, to raise money for Wheel of Time.
To save Wheel of Time.
Yep.
The funniest outcome
$10 at a time.
The funniest outcome for that would be you are fully invested and you drink your own piss for this show, and then you watch it and you don't love it.
Well, maybe I will have to check it out.
Yeah.
I've been watching a couple shows that I am going to suggest to you here. They're all like comedies, but number 1 is Tires, which I stumbled across on Netflix.
I saw it.
Starring Shane Gillis. You've seen that one?
Yeah.
So funny. Oh my gosh.
My biggest problem with that show is the first season was so short. It ended right when I was like deciding I liked the show.
Yeah. Well, at least season 2 is about to come on. I kind of thought it was a canceled show. I didn't realize it was a show that was still going on. So I'm excited for season 2, but you're right. I mean, it suffers that you used to get 24 episodes of comedies, you know.
I don't know.
Now you get like
changed.
8. Yeah. But maybe this one will be longer. Another great show that I rewatched is called The Detroiters.
I tried to watch Detroiters. I've probably gotten 2 or 3 episodes in.
I think it's so funny. It stars Tim Robinson, the guy from I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson.
I was going to ask if you've seen I Think You Should Leave.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I saw that one first, and then I saw Detroiters.
That's strange that we've never talked about it.
I feel like maybe we've mentioned it on this podcast before.
Surely
in 110 episodes or something.
A few years ago when I was staying at my parents' for like 2 weeks recovering from a surgery, I just binged I Think You Should Leave Now because I had nothing else to do with my days.
Did your parents watch any? I'm sure they were like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Nope, they were at work every time.
Yeah. And then a show I'm rewatching that's really good that you've probably seen is Silicon Valley.
I have not heard anything about that.
Oh my gosh, it's an HBO show. It's done by now. I think it had like 5 or 6 seasons, and it's just about like the tech world, you know.
Tech bros.
Yeah, kind of. I can't believe you've never heard of it. It was pretty popular back in the day. But it's a funny one. If you have HBO, it's worth a watch. You'd probably like it.
Well, you know what else is on HBO is My Neighbor Totoro.
Is it now? Well, maybe I'll have to check that one out from Studio Ghibli.
I honestly don't know if you'll like it. I could see it going either way.
I don't know. It's probably good, but maybe one day.
Maybe one day.
Yeah. All right. What else do we have? What else has happened?
2 weeks is so long. I can't even remember what happened in the last 2 weeks.
Indy 5 is about to start.
I thought it already started.
I thought it started at noon also, but nothing ever starts on time anymore.
That's right.
Let's see.
Famous there?
Yeah, Tom Brady's like doing the pace lap or something.
Well, that's the worst person to have do it.
I know, he's gonna get booed like crazy. What else has happened here? I don't know.
I can't think of anything.
Nothing good going on right now.
Nope.
I'm on summer break. I'm on summer break. There you go. That's what's happened.
That's
as of yesterday.
Congratulations. Yep. I'm probably going to start hitting you up way more during the week, knowing that.
To what, record and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like probably specifically Fridays.
Yep.
Or maybe not just record if you like ever want to like hit some balls or see a movie or something.
Yep. And if we want to go back to a once a week setup for these webheads.
Dude, I can't do that with the editing. The editing is the killer. It's not reading and talking to you.
That's true.
Hearing it again.
Ugh, I can't imagine.
Twice as long.
I can't imagine. If
for
you had
every
a partner who helped you, maybe it'd go better. But
do you want to?
No.
Okay.
No. That's what I meant.
Right. Yeah. That's like the old Ali thing. Hey, get a real job. Sure. You hiring?
Okay, let's think of one other thing that happened this week, Zach.
Something big to leave off on.
And then we'll throw it over to me.
Oh, I saw a movie that was kind of funny. I will actually recommend this to you over My Neighbor Totoro, even though I think Totoro's the better movie. I think this would be maybe a better John movie.
Okay.
I think it's called Bottoms or The Bottom or something. It is like, I don't know if you saw Booksmart a couple years ago with the two nerdy girls basically doing like Superbad.
Oh, I know that movie, but yeah, I didn't see it.
Okay. This movie is like a mixture of that and Blue Mountain State. It's just like the most stereotypical like high school comedy to the point where they're leaning into it, and it's not even like a real world, right? Like in those movies, the football team is always just like 5 guys and like one main guy. Like,
yeah.
And so they lean all the way into that. And it's
I like the sound of that. I like Blue Mountain State a lot.
Yes. The football team, every time you see them, is literally just like 5 guys. And there's like one quarterback that they're all like, they're talking about him on like the morning announcements. Like,
yeah,
everyone say thank you, Jesus, for our blue-blooded, golden-armed, pretty boy quarterback that's going to take us all the way this year. And it's campy in that kind of way. And it has Marshawn Lynch in it, and he is pretty funny.
What was it called?
The Bottom or Bottoms.
It's a movie?
It's a movie.
Oh, easy, dude. Okay. I'll check that one out by the next recording.
It was on Amazon or HBO or one of the things that we have.
Okay. I love it.
And it was I always respect this. It's one of the ones where it's like the stars wrote the movie. It's like screenplay and idea by these people. And I don't know if you know Rachel Sennott. She's like kind of a rising star. She was in Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
I don't think so because I haven't heard of that.
Okay. She's one of the stars that like wrote it.
Okay.
So not like the greatest movie by any stretch of the imagination, but like one of the funnier things I've seen recently.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'll check that one out.
Nice.
That sounds good. You sold me on that one.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else?
That's it.
That's all I've got too. All right. Well, oh my gosh, we do have a new logo, by the way. I haven't debuted it yet.
Oh, I'm gonna put it up when we actually start Miles Morales.
Okay. Well, you can look forward to that. Thank you so much to Ian Hickey for our music and Alyssa Steeman for the artwork. And thank you all for listening and leaving us a review or a comment. You can find us, the First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast, on Spotify or Apple Music or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. And you can leave us a comment on Instagram at First Read Podcast. Send us an email at firstreadspidey@gmail.com or find us on YouTube, First Read Ultimate Spider-Man podcast. See you next week.
See ya.